First of all, sexy Zoom voice.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, you definitely should look into voiceover acting.
I need the connect to our listeners.
Yeah, Dirty Skittles needs a connection to voiceover acting. The perfect way to get out of her shitty job.
I need like one-liners to read, like audition. This is my auditioning tape.
Can we just pull a line out of one of your spicy books?
Somebody else would have to pull the line, because if you give it to me, I immediately want the most horrible, like, not horrible. That's good, depending on if you like that sort of thing.
This warning, this season is not PG. So yeah, yesterday I realized that I need an assistant. So we had some scheduling conflicts, and this all came about during my day job, right? Where I also had some conflicts going on, and both of them needed my attention like right away. So I had to flip a coin and figure out which one I was going to work on. At that very moment, I realized that I need an assistant. Somebody that can handle that stuff during the day when I can't really get to it, because I still work, right? I have a day job, but like stuff with the podcast is also important, especially now because we have 0 spots left for 2024. Like 0.
Yeah. How crazy is that? And it's May.
And like how the fuck this happened is beyond me. But I think the other cool thing that happened this week too is that we hit 400,000 downloads, and incredibly humbling.
Excuse me while I have a panic attack. Just kidding. I literally, you know what? I'm in a healthy state of delusion. I'm like, nobody's listening. Although I was talking to a coworker, we won't say her name here, but I'm pretty sure she probably reached out and told you the story. Talking to a coworker, and this is how I blacked out shit that makes me nervous. But I swore she said she was somewhere listening to it, and just a complete stranger was like, "Oh my God, I love that podcast." And she told me that, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta go." It's like Microsoft Teams just did something's wrong. Hang up. Oh, it fucked me up for the day.
I know it fucks you up, but like, does it fuck you up like in a humbling way, or?
I think you and I have briefly talked about this, probably not while we're recording, where it's like, it's one thing. Okay, this is completely a me, you thing. It's one thing for me to encourage your story, right? Like, I'm like, this is important. She's got a lot to say. Like, this is wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm like, yes, do it, girl, do it. Like, I'm cheering you on. But then when you hear from other people that, hey, so-and-so really likes your podcast, or a complete stranger is like, hey, that podcast is great. I'm like, oh, yeah, people are actually listening. I'm like, this is actually helping somebody. And it freaks me out because I'm like, oh, yeah, like I become very self-aware of like, what am I saying? Like, what am I putting out there? People listening, like it's kind of trippy.
And that's kind of like why I don't tell you anymore when a new article goes out, or
you're like, she can't go,
or anything like that, because I'm afraid to poke the bear that will go into a full-on panic attack. So what I do is I just put them into like bundles, and then I like send you a text, and I'm like, hey, listen, we got like 3 new articles. Can you go read these?
Yeah.
After you've maybe taken a gummy?
Right? Shit, maybe not. Because then I might get more into my head. Who knows? We'll have to test it out.
Let's do a quick intro, and then we can dig in. You ready?
Let's do it.
I'm going to do the intro because I am all in. And
you're ready. You should just roll today, bro. I'm just here.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Three, two, one. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes on Our Heads. Today, it's just Dirty Skittles and I, and we are going to recap season 6. How the fuck did that happen?
I don't know. I don't know. It was just yesterday we recorded the very first one that we never aired, remember?
Right.
We recorded it. We listened to it back and you were like,
No.
I need a new mic. You're like, I need a mic. Let's try that again. And then we tried to recreate it and it just wasn't the same.
It wasn't. And
I think we laughed a bunch.
And this was all started because of some fucked up story you and I were telling each other. And like, hey, we should record a podcast. Okay. A month later, we dropped our first episode. And now we're in season 6 and we're all the way up to almost 70 episodes.
I know. That's fucking crazy.
It's fucking crazy. But I love it. And I love our Saturdays together. And I love meeting all these new amazing guests.
Yeah.
And the whole...
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say just how grateful and how like cool it is that people are like, we want to record with y'all.
Yeah. And like people are willing to wait. We are completely booked for 2024.
It's crazy. It's wild too.
And every day I get at least 4 emails of people that want to get onto the podcast. So starting mid-July, we are going to stop doing pre-recordings because we will have enough content to take us into February. But I will start pre-recordings again sometime in late October. And because there are people waiting to talk to us. And I'm like, we're a little booked right now, but we still want to talk to you. And you can sign up for the newsletter to kind of see where we're at, what's going on in our lives. And over the last couple of weeks, I've had about 10 new subscribers to our newsletter.
Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. How does it feel for you? Because this was not only just like a joke amongst friends,
right?
But you for sure came out of a dark place. You're much better now and you're sharing your story. So like, how does this feel for you?
It's very surreal. So surreal. And like never in a million fucking years did I think that I would be doing a podcast, let alone sharing my story. But it's so fucking healing for me. Like, I'm so thankful to be alive. Every single day, I'm so thankful to be here and to be inspiring and to get other people to share their journeys and make people feel less terrified about their own shit they're going through because it's scary. Depression sucks. And I think, well, I know that we're making a difference. Like your story, right? Somebody said that they love our podcast. A complete stranger, because when we started this, it was just friends and family. And now we have best-selling authors. We have morning show hosts. We have, people from all walks of life. And the fact that we ended up having to get a PR firm because I just couldn't do all this shit myself. I mean, I tried. I did really good for almost a year.
You did so good. Not really good. I think we are here because of your effort and the work that you put in.
But I love doing this. Like when recording Saturday comes up, I get so excited. I went to bed at 10 o'clock last night. I never go to bed at 10.
Just so you were fresh.
And ready to go. And, I get to do this with my best friend. And not everybody gets to do this. And, people say to me all the time that we just really blend well. And that, you ask those really hard questions and then I come back sometimes with a snarky answer, maybe not, but it's so healing. And when I'm done recording on Saturdays, like I'm at an 11 because I just feel like I've learned something new, a new tip, a new technique, and how people got out of some of the darkest places in their life to get to someplace better. And, I just want to give people hope because life really is better on the other side of depression.
Yeah, I know.
And there you go. Gonna make me cry again because I feel a little.
Oh my gosh!
Feel a little tear.
What are we in? What 10 minutes in?
Yeah, I got a little tear in my eye because of you. But I want to give a shout out to our family because we spend a lot of time on the podcast. I took away some of the responsibilities from Dirty Skittles so she can, spend time with her son and work at her not so fantastic job. But I love it. And, I'm in a point in my life where I get to not only work at my dream job, like I get to follow my passion also. And it's funny, my wife, Lisa the lesbian, she's like, I've never seen you work so hard on something you don't get paid for. And, that truly has been our mission since day one, is that, I'm so passionate about this, and we're both really good at this. Not to, throw an ego blast out there, but we're really good. And we bring out like the best in all of our guests. And, Heather reached out to me the other day, and she's like, I listened to Jackie's episode. I loved it. And every episode that we have, they all have something awesome to say about what we're doing and how we're helping other people. So,
yeah, Dr. Jackie.
Dr. Jackie, she was awesome.
Was so cool for me because I remember literally like yesterday, I'm up in our kitchen and I'm reading up on the guests so that I can kind of, not necessarily plan out the questions, but like know what direction to go into. And I remember reading about Dr. Jackie and thinking, whoa, there's a lot here, right? Like her story, her history. I never in a million years would think that I would have the opportunity to talk to somebody like that. It was just intense, but awesome.
And that's the awesome part about this. It's like, think about all those amazing people we've gotten to speak with that in our normal day-to-day life, we probably would never run into.
Right.
That to me is like the coolest part of our podcast.
And I think what's really cool, not necessarily just about Dr. Jackie, but I remember in that episode, I'm seeing, like, we get to see the people for who they are today, right? And then we get to hear about what their past was like. And so even I would say intense past for her parents, and look at her now. She's so put together, and she's not a victim of whatever happened, right? Like, she is this beautiful, wonderful person. I just think that's so cool because it's not just her. It's like every guest we see and we get to talk to. We get like almost like what do I want to say? Like, we're going back to the future, right? Like, we're like, we see you today, but we're going back and learning your story. Like, it's crazy.
And that to me is like really cool. And, getting a sense of like everything that they've been through and teaching us new lessons. Like, I really depend on you to write stuff down because when I'm recording, I'm like in the moment and I can't do two things at once. I've tried. I'm 60 now. It's a lot harder to do at 60 than it probably was at like 45. I've got like blinders on. I'm like, I just need to focus on this one task. I think I have a little bit of late stage ADHD. I'm not sure. Like, I'll be working on podcast stuff and then I'll remember that there was something else that, Lisa the lesbian asked me to do. And I'm like, oh, just got to go on hold.
At least you remember that she asked you to do something.
Only because I wrote it down.
Okay, yeah, writing stuff down.
I use my phone, so I text myself a message of stuff that I'm supposed to do. Otherwise, I forget.
So besides Dr. Jackie, we also had Barb and Carmel.
Love Barb and Carmel. I'm so proud of her. She's been winning a bunch of literary awards for her books and really getting out there and, showing people that therapy animals are so important, not just for kids, but for adults, people in senior homes, they're just, pets are comforting. And as much as my 8 asshole cats, are little assholes, I still love them. And like when I'm around them, I feel they give me a sense of calm. And I will say something about Dr. Barb. She comments on every single post we put on Instagram. Every single post. She's like our biggest cheerleader.
I love that. So quick side mission. 8 cats?
8.
Tell the listeners who your favorite cat is.
Okay.
Don't say you can't pick. Don't say you can't.
So my favorite is Momo. She is our blind cat. And she is the most resilient cat ever. She's cute. She can't see anything. She uses her senses to get around. And she's just soft. So soft. But I try not to pet her because that girl, So the reason she smells like dryer sheets all the time is because she likes to roll around in the fucking litter box. Okay. Listen, girl, go clean your shit. Okay. Don't roll on me. Let me go take 8,000 Zyrtec D when I'm done petting you, please.
Aw. So that's like torture. A soft animal you can't pet. She's resilient and so are you.
Maybe I'll just get a stuffed version of her. Look, Momo.
Sorry, side mission. We're back. I was thinking of Barb the other day because my son is learning math. He loves math, by the way. Nice. Completely unlike his mom. So I'm like, yes, let's encourage this. But we were trying to work through a math problem and we have a dog and he came over. His name is Mayer. He was named Mayer because Bizzle is obsessed with John Mayer. Shout out to John Mayer. I'm not obsessed with you, but other people are. Anyhow, so we were trying to teach him math using Mayer, and it was like he couldn't be more focused. And I remember that being one of the things that Barb talked about in her episode. And I just was like, oh, I thought it was cool that I can think back on her in my life.
Yeah, like she's so passionate about the therapy animal program and just really out there. And she's an educator too herself. And just, bringing all that together so that people have a better understanding of how the process works, how it can really help children, especially, I think she said it was like second graders, helping them ease their fears and their tensions and anxiety and just getting into the moment. And so I really love that. And then we had Bob, the episode where you and I laughed so hard. Our face hurt after. And then we had to record 2 more sessions after that. I have never had a deeper conversation about crickets in my entire life.
You know what though? Bizzle, I think, finally listened to that episode because at night, 2 or 3 nights ago, he kept laughing about cricket legs being stuck in your teeth. He had a couple of gummies, but he couldn't stop laughing. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And then I remember Bob.
And I love that, he was able to overcome some of his aversions so that, he could have kids and,
I don't think that's why.
But no.
So that he could have kids.
So that he could have kids and so that he could enjoy life. And, it just as an adult, life sucks anyway, but having those fears and those aversions and just making it through. And I really think that laughter is one of his coping mechanisms because I have never laughed so hard for an entire hour. I mean, I've laughed with you, but I had tears rolling down my eyes down my cheeks because he would not stop. It was just bang. I'm like, I am going to die of laughter. Literally.
Yeah. I remember texting you after that one saying my face hurts just from smiling through that whole episode and laughing through the whole thing. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I like that, I could relate to his story, right? Sometimes we think that, maybe there's something weird about this, but you don't really know, right? You don't know. And then when somebody points it out, you're like, oh, yeah, I guess maybe it's not normal. And I can relate to that.
Maybe what I'm saying is a bad thing. I don't know. Let me go back and research this. Oh, wait, I don't have any time. That's why I need an assistant.
Okay. I hear you. I need an assistant. So this could be my audition tape for voice acting in your intro or job posting for an assistant.
For an assistant. We don't pay much because, as I said, we don't really have a lot of sponsors except for Skittles, which Dirty Skittles laughed about.
Yeah, I heard it on Spotify. I was like, Skittles, this sounds like G-Rex.
Oh my God, I'm losing it today.
Sorry, I needed a Red Bull break.
And then we had Joe. And man, being diagnosed late in life with bipolar and having to go through all that craziness. But I'm so proud of him for, finding shit that works for him. Meditation and, watching his meds and, looking for the signs, because not everybody does that. Those are on that spectrum, bipolar disorder, right?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway, there was a bit of a self-reflective moment because I remember in that episode not really knowing what I could ask, right? Like I had so many questions. My brain just naturally, I want to know all of the things about everything. And I think I sometimes don't have a filter on what's appropriate to ask or not. And so in that episode, I remember us recording and I was freezing mentally because I didn't know if all of my questions were necessarily appropriate. And I didn't want to offend him, right? I'm so curious because I can't relate.
Right.
And so I'm like trying to oh my gosh, tell me more. But my biggest takeaway on that episode was despite how difficult it may be for someone, taking the right steps to not only get your therapy or your psychiatrist or whatever you need, but him learning his triggers and things that he needed to steer away from.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Kudos to him because, he's working through it and, and I'm really proud of him for, sharing his story because I can only imagine how difficult that was for him.
Right. Yeah. I can't even put myself there. I'm like, wow, that's so admirable.
Right.
Yeah. And it's proof that there is life after or through things. I shouldn't say after because I think you're constantly kind of working through it, but there is life through that.
And, even he said, sharing his journey is therapy for him too, right? Because he really wants to get the message out there and let people know that there's tools and tips and tricks to get you through day to day. And, sharing our stories is so vitally important, especially these days. Mental health is a huge topic. And the more we get out there, the more people we're helping.
Yeah.
And then we
talked about Dr. Jackie.
We did talk about Dr. Jackie. And then we had Jesston. And oh my God, I loved him.
It.
Loved him.
I would like to revisit with him in the future.
Yeah, me too.
2025 at this point.
Yeah, because 2024 is completely booked.
I was inspired by his story because he didn't let his upbringing take him down.
He bettered himself and he's out there helping others, right? And helping the homeless and, creating his nonprofit and, just living life and making a difference and, realizing that, sometimes life is not all roses, but it's what you do with that, energy and that passion and facing those fears. Like some of the stuff he talked about, like jumping out of an airplane, fuck no, still never going to happen.
Yeah, but he was so genuine. And I remember sitting there and it was very clear he was genuine. He was unapologetically himself and he was just vulnerable. That's what it was.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. And I just admired that so much about him.
And I think that the common thing that I've seen from season to season is that when people are sitting in front of a microphone versus face to face, they are way more vulnerable and way more willing to share more of themselves than they would with somebody probably in a face-to-face conversation. And I think that's why this medium is so important, right? Because we give people an outlet to share that journey and share how they've bettered themselves, how they've gotten out of a traumatic situation, or how they're out there helping the world be a better place.
Yeah. I mean, I give you guys so much credit. You too. There was two thoughts that ran through my mind as we were talking. One of them was I wonder what it is about opening up yourself to be vulnerable, in this type of setting where we have a microphone and we're recording, right? Very weird, but it's true. I understand. And I can tell from some of our guests that they are vulnerable, and they have this mic and it's going out to hundreds of thousands of listeners or however many, the one person that's listening, multiple, whoever it is. No. And I'm just curious about that, but also how brave you guys are, because after you share your story and people listen, instead of shying away from ever talking about it again, you continue. And so I'm like, you're so brave. So, not to make you cry again, but
we keep trying to open the doors. right? And normalize these conversations because, for years and years, they've been swept under the carpet. And now more than ever, these stories are important in these journeys because people are suffering. And if we can give them a resource to go get help or some sort of solace or even just a tiny bit of laughter in their day, it will make them feel better.
Yeah. And then we had Cecile.
We did have Cecile. I loved Cecile. Oh my God. What a great...
I want to say it like with a French accent, but I'm not pretty good at that.
My ears are bleeding. Please no.
Yeah. First of all, I fangirl for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I just have to tell our listeners, I've only ever seen her up on stage in front of hundreds of people with a light, looking just wonderful and confident. And, as, my little female self, I'm sitting in this chair watching her speak and thinking, wow, I want to be that brave one day to be up on stage just talking and unstoppable. So when I got to sit down in a more intimate setting, I was like, like, oh, God, I fangirled a little bit. It's like her and Viv.
Yeah.
Look, I have sweaty palms just thinking about it. Incredibly socially awkward.
But she was so lovely, right? Like she had been traveling for like 6 weeks. She didn't know what time zone she was in.
But she was so happy.
Yeah.
And she looked so young, right? We were saying that happiness, that genuine happiness from the inside out made her look so different than that confident woman on stage with all the lights. Like all of a sudden it was like there was a different energy to her.
Yeah, she exuded it. And
she was glowing.
Talking about her, her olives and her travels.
She was living my dream.
and like how she just doesn't really give a fuck about, having to prove herself, right? Because people kept coming back to her. So what are you going to do next? What are you going to do? You know what? I'm not going to fucking do shit. What I'm going to do is enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And live it to the fullest. And, people didn't really understand why she left when she did. But, there were circumstances that she needed to address. And she is so much better for it, right? Splitting her time between the States and France, like, that doesn't fucking suck. Living your life. And, it brings me back to, like, Bookie, you don't have to make a bucket list. If you live for today, that should be your bucket list, right? And that's what she's doing. She's living for today and making those memories with her kids and her husband and her friends and traveling and living her fucking life. And you know what? People should be happy for that. You don't have to be out there proving yourself. I mean, we don't do the podcast to prove ourselves. I have nothing to prove. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm alive. And like I said, every day I'm so very fucking thankful for that. Because I get to do this with you.
Oh, thanks, dude. I get to do it with you too.
And we get to laugh about dumb shit on the mornings that I call you.
Yeah, it's my therapy. Like I should pay.
Like my Chat GPT unicorn, which was the best.
Yeah, we gotta share that with our listeners one day. One day
we'll share that fancy unicorn out. But then we had Paige, and Paige was amazing. Okay, so in both Cecile's episode and in Paige's episode, both of our guests cried. But what I thought was really awesome is that they showed how vulnerable they were in the moment, but also let out a really important message during those times. And that to me, shows growth. And, it's okay to cry. It really is. I just cried the other day out of sheer frustration, but I felt better after it. It was kind of cathartic. But, Paige's story of, just the mental illness that goes on within our medical community, right? Like, I don't think people realize how stressful those jobs are, and we all do get pissed off when we go to the emergency room and we got to wait for 5 hours. But, we're understaffed, we're overworked, and they just don't have the tools and the resources to help them deal with their own mental health. And
I know.
I love that she's out there trying to change that for other medical workers, just with her conferences and her speaking engagements. And she's out there trying to make a difference. And I commend her for that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that day in recording with her, because I remember thinking or being curious, I wonder how many of our listeners will realize that they're not alone.
Yeah.
In her story. Yeah. And I just remember thinking that's super important. Like, my past is not the same as what the story she shared, but I remember even in my own growth and becoming okay with my issues, one of the first steps was realizing, oh, I'm not alone. There are other people who feel like me and feel like this because this is happening to them too. And I think even for her, that was something that she had to learn, that it was okay to be going through what she was going through. She's not a robot. She's not a soldier. She is a human, and we have emotions and feelings, and things will affect us. And taking that and turning it to something positive, spreading it.
Yeah, she was so lovely. I remember when we did a pre-recording with her, and she went out onto Instagram and was like blasting our name all over the place and like how much fun we were. And she has such cool energy, right? It just kind of like transcends into you when you're just doing a Zoom call. And her episode was so good. So good.
It felt like just a conversation for sure. Like I felt like we were all in the same room together, just sharing stories. Like it was really
shooting the shit. And it's funny. I heard from Jack and Brad the other day, and another, two more huge lovers of the podcast. And they're like, yeah, every time I describe your podcast, it's just like, people sitting around in the fireplace, shooting the shit, talking about life's crap.
A night in with friends.
So, and we're easy. Like we're not clinical by any means. We're not professionals by any means.
But we're humans. And we're compassionate.
Yes. Very.
Empathetic.
I'm only pathetic sometimes.
Empathetic.
Oh, empathetic. I thought you called me pathetic. I'm like,
no, empathetic. Oh my God.
Chills because you called me pathetic.
Holy shit. No, dude. No.
I love you.
Don't ever. Yeah, you're like, oh, I thought you were
I love you, man.
Empathetic.
And then we had Diane, and what I loved about her journey is that she got away from her narcissistic mom and made a life for herself all on her own. Yeah. And she was it was such a warm conversation. And Diane, when you listen to this episode, I just want to say thank you for clicking on the links in the newsletter. It makes me happy.
Wow, you can see that?
Yeah, I can. I can see who opened it and if you clicked on any links. But I loved her story, and just, being at one with nature and just finding the peace in your life. But damn, she really did it all. She paid for school on her own. She got a job. She's written her book, and she found her happiness despite all the bullshit she went through as a kid. And, I think there's a lot of lessons in that, right? That despite the trauma you've dealt with in your past, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go make a life for yourself. Yeah, you're going to hit 1,000 fucking bumps in the road, but you get up, you dust yourself off, and you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, she was inspiring. She inspired me. I'm very much in my go female era, and her story, and just and I know this is just a me thing. I don't think this is how she was thinking of it, but it was I think as the underdog, sometimes I want to see that underdog succeed and be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's kind of harsh for a summary, but
we are not, you're not holding me down. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to dust myself off, and I am going to keep moving forward and find my own fucking happiness.
Surpass your expectations and my own.
Right.
I'm going to do it so well, you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
That's the shit I love. So I loved her episode.
And
then
we had Susie.
Susie.
Another episode.
Oh, can I just say,
yes,
Susie, if you're listening to this, I want us to be best friends. Okay.
Another episode where we laughed hard again, face hurting. Thankfully, it was the last episode of the day that we recorded.
But we stayed on for a while afterwards.
We did. And she was a two-parter because I couldn't cram it all into one. I tried, wasn't going to happen.
The message was too important to cut anything out.
I loved how she had the insight as a kid, right, to recognize that a family member was struggling with mental health issues and then followed that passion all the way into adulthood and made it her mission to help others out by, she's a 988 crisis counselor and making that difference, right? And she gave me chills because...
Well, yeah, I mean, for you, that's, I guess not just you, but for anybody who's used that resource to be able to talk to somebody who's a part of that movement.
Yeah.
How could it not give chills?
Thank God there is 988, right? Because not only can you call them, you can text them. They're on 24/7. They speak Spanish. There are 988 lines now in Canada. If you visit our website, there's a findahelpline.org where you can click on that link, and anywhere in the world, you can find somebody that can help you, right? 20 years ago, these types of resources weren't available. And I loved how vulnerable Susie was in that episode, talking about her own mental health struggles and, just getting through day to day. And shout out to her. She does have a podcast. Check the show notes. All her information's out there. You can also check our website. Big props to her. She is quite a bit younger than I am. But, getting out there and making a difference and having resources like that for, any age group. It's women supporting women.
Yeah.
Supporting mental health. She's like us. We want to normalize these conversations. We want to get these stories out. You're not alone. You really aren't. You would be amazed how many people are out there suffering from some type of mental health issue. And the more you share, the more you're going to help somebody else that's going through that.
Yeah. I had chills for you in that episode. I was like, wow, you're getting to talk to it's almost like putting a face to something.
Yeah.
But realizing that they're humans. They're human beings, just the same as we are. So yeah. And I don't know. I just think it's cool. I mean, we've had a really great season. I'm looking forward to the future.
Yeah.
And what could possibly happen next, because I don't think I couldn't have imagined that we would be where we are now.
Right.
I can't imagine where we will be as we continue. So I'm looking forward to the future.
And like I said, I'm so blessed that I get to do this with you. We feed off of each other. We ask poignant questions. We laugh. And, we're human. And like I said, I don't know what the future holds. Also, I know is that we're booked up like crazy. People that want to be on the podcast, I love you all. Believe me, I'm trying. Still need a personal assistant to help with this. Never thought I would be asking for that. But, our PR firm is, working to get us onto some big name shows. And we are also working on Dirty Skittles just passed out, I think. But we are also working on getting some of our dream guests on. Persistence does pay off. So someday you may hear like Mel Robbins or Gretchen Rubin or Jay Shetty on this. There's a lot of people out there that also suffer through mental health issues, and getting those stories out help people realize that they're really not alone. So it's not just the celebrities or public figures. It could be Joey down the street. It could be your mom. It could be your dad. It could be a brother, or sister, or cousin. Let's normalize these conversations.
Yeah, we're all humans. We're all in this life too.
We are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.